Genesis chapters 49 and 19 says, Gad, a troop, shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. I want to give our praises to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahushai Bahashem, Harakah Kodash, giving double honors to all the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone. Salutes to all the 144,000 elect out there. So I'm going to get into some of this. Israel's prophecy concerning his sons. Right, he gives in all the characters. Jacob, breaking down all the characters of his sons, the progenitors of Jacob's sons. Goes back to Reuben. You have the likes of Simeon. You have the likes of Judah, right, etc., etc., etc. But we're going home in and focusing on Gad, right, which we now go back to what they call the American Indians. So Gad, and we have some examples here, an example here. So I'm land backing off Elder Malcolm, who's made mention of Geronimo, and little bit of brief history on Geronimo. I didn't know of him myself, so I'm going to check out some of this brief history and find everything through the scriptures. Simply just tapped in who was Geronimo, right? And there's quite some bits here. You can get into the whole of it, and if I want to do some more on it, I can always do that. Right? Goes in about was an Apache religious and military leader who was Geronimo. Geronimo was born in the 1820s, perhaps near present Clifton, Arizona. His Apache name was, this one might be a bit of a tongue tangler. Right, well, you can see it. You can see it. One who yearns. Right, I'm assuming that's the meaning of his name. One who yearns or yearns. He achieved a reputation as a spiritual leader, a treacherous fighter against those who threatened his people ways of life. I don't know what that means. Let's see something here. Tetris. Alright, give me something there. Just want to see something here, man. Tetris. What does that mean? Not readily. Tending to keep a firm hold of something. Clinging or adoring closely. I just wanted to I want to kind of get an idea what I'm reading. He achieved a reputation as a spiritual leader, a treacherous fighter, right, clinging onto his tradition, right. So we got an idea now what that means. Clinging onto his traditions, his his reputation is what one who yearns, or is it the meaning of his name? So he didn't want to let go of his ways of life, his traditions, the Apache's traditions, right? So he was trying to cling on to it. Fighter against those who threaten his people's ways of life. There you go, sticking to his ways of life, and a staunch fighter. So this was Geronimo, right? Some of us who didn't know, right? Born in the 16th, 2029. There you go, of June. So bit more. Geronimo's famous. What was his famous quote? He said his famous quote: "I was no chief and never had been, but because I had been more deeply wronged than others, this honor was conferred upon me, and I resolved to prove worthy of the trust." People trusted him. He's treacherous fighter, clinging to his ways of life. So people referred that upon him. He said, "Yeah, but because I had been more deeply wronged than others, this honor was conferred upon him, right, to stand for his his traditions, homeland security, and that goes into the T word, right? Because people, the real T's are the Edomites. When you get into it, we're going to funnel everything through the scriptures. One more, it says, what were Geronimo's dying words, right? When you try and find out how he died in Google, which we know how he died, as Elder Malcolm broke it down, that he was stabbed in the back by an Edomite. It's typical, it's a snakely way, cowardly way to die, right? A cowardly way of killing someone, getting stabbed in the back. But yeah, when you try and find out how they give all kinds of, he died of pneumonia and he died in hospital at old age. They ain't giving you the straight skinny. But like we do, as we always do, we funnel everything through the scriptures and pick out the bones, right? Yam the meat and dash for the bones. So what were Geronimo's dying words? It says his last words were reported to be said to his nephew, I should have never surrendered. Right, what scripture comes to mind? Never trust thine enemy. He says, I should have never surrendered. I should have fought until I was the last man alive. Right, they say he was buried at Fort Still in this particular hospital when he died. So, like I say, they're not telling us how he died, but he was stabbed in the back by an Edomite. A cowardly way to die. Let me hit that precept. Abu Ratazar get into certain Abu Ratazar bring out certain words too. So let's get back to the scriptures, man. Yeah, this is the story of Gad. Yeah, Genesis 49 and 19. Gad is a troop. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Let me bring out this precept. So he was overcome in a cowardly way. He went Sirach, but he gonna overcome at the last. Right? As the saying goes, he who last laugh, laughs best. So let's get this one, Sirach, chapters 12 and 10. And as we know, it was all prophecy anyway for him to be overcome. But he gonna overcome at the last. Sirach 12 and 10 says, never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Right? He got the idea. He said, I should have never surrendered. Right? That's what he said. Well, they're saying he surrendered. I should have fought until I was the last man standing. So he got the idea, man. In his last words, I should have never surrendered. And doesn't it ring true here? Never trust thine enemy. So he gonna overcome anyway, right? He gonna overcome at the last. And let's look up the word overcome. Matter of fact, let me see something here. What does it say? In the NLT, it says God will be attacked by Mirandin bands in the NLT, but he will attack them when they retreat. Interesting. God will be in NIV. God will be attacked by a band of raiders, but he will attack them at their heels. So that's what it says in the NIV, the NLT. Now, I want to look at the word overcome. H1464. To invade, attack. Right? There you have it, man. Right? He was overcome, but he gonna overcome at the last. He gonna invade them, attack them. Right? I always try anyway. Let me get this. We're gonna hit the scriptures. To crowd upon, to attack, invade, overcome. Yeah. So there you have it. Where it says there, he gonna overcome at the last. So we got a precept here. Isaiah 30:26 says, moreover, the light of the moon shall be as the light of the sun, and the light of the sun shall be sevenfold as the light of 7 days. In that day that the Lord bindeth up the breaches of his people, and healeth the strokes of their wounds. So here we have it some more to further bring home the point. You're going to heal up the wounds. God being overcome, he's going to heal up the wounds, right? More prophecy, and this is prophecy, right? Because yes, we all damn bad. All of the tribes, all of the 12 tribes, when you get into it in Genesis, right? The story of all of it, all of the the progenitors goes back to he says, gather yourselves together, back to Genesis 49 and 2. Gather yourselves together and hear ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel your father. And he breaks down all of the characteristics of all of the sons of Jacob. Reuben, thou art my firstborn, my might, and my beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity and excellency of power. All right, there you have it. Simeon, he breaks down all the characteristics of all of them. But like I say, I was homing in on Gad. He's been overcome, but he's going to overcome at the last. Right? We looked at the precept here. He's going to bind up the wounds. 26. It says there, the Lord will bind up the breaches of his people and heal the strokes of their wounds. Right? And then another one to make the point. Amos 9 and 11. In that day will I rise up the tabernacle of David that is falling. Right? Meaning the house of David, right, consists of all of the 12 tribes coming back together, uniting us, right? Right, that's the northern tribe and the southern tribe. In that day will I rise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof, and I will rise up his ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old, when we were united and we stood against all of the enemies, and they was all fearful of us. All of the enemies, right? All of the Syrian enemies of ours, the Edomites, was under derision under David, and we were known as the warriors. We were the warriors. David had you might call a entourage, right? Which were his troops, and we're dispersed right now, but we're gonna overcome at the last. So I want to look up a particular word here. Breaches. The Most High is going to bind up the breaches, and that's what their biggest fear. Their biggest fear. They know there was in derision then, and they're starting to feel it already. Hence, they may coming up with all these draconian laws, unrighteous decrees. So let's get into this. H6556. Their biggest fear, breaches. Right, Most High say going to bind up the breaches. Right, breach gap. Right, the gap between the northern tribe and the southern tribe, and the ignorance. There's a lot of ignorance, and then ultimately, yeah, the 2/3 are going to remain ignorant anyway. They're also what you might call heathens, or they're among the nations. They're among the ease, or they have a heathen spirit or heathen tendency. So really, they're spiritual heathens, the ones that are not of the elect. It's all about the elect. So, right, breach that is broken. That's what we say about that, right? Breaking, right? Most I say you're going to breach us back or bind up the breaches. Outburst. Enough said on that. Breach, breaking forth. So most are going to bind up. You're going to bind up the breaches. So that's all I want on that. Most High say going to bind them. That's beautiful. That's Most High. That's something that we look forward to. That right. In that day will I rise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up. Let me see what it says in the curiosity in the NKJV. It says, on that day I will rise up the tabernacle of David which has fallen down, and repair its damages. I will rise up its ruins and rebuild it as in the days of old. That's there you have it, man. I will rise up the tabernacle of David which has fallen. I will repair. There you have it. They talk about reparations, which reparation goes into repair, and we know we're going to get reparations anyway, right? If they want, I don't want to make, which we know the scriptures we done know that it says no man, Deuteronomy 28, no man shall buy thee. So we know we ain't going, according to the scriptures, we ain't going to get reparations in the way of money, dollars, paper bills, right? They got our gold and they want to return that, so we know we ain't getting it in that way, in the carnal way. We're going to get it anyway in the spirit of the Lord. Yehoshua, when he returns, right? And that's how it's going to come, with healing in his wings. Yehoshua it's going to be gotten, pursuing to Isaiah 63. He's going to tread them down like grapes. That's how it's going to be gotten. Enough said. So he's going to repair us. It says the same thing here in the NLT. In that day, I will restore the fallen house of David. I will repair its damage, right? From the ruins will I rebuild it, and restore its former glory. Beautiful. All right. It's all about repair, right? Reparations in the form of justice from on high, the highest judge of all. Once again, NIV. In that day I will restore David's fallen shelter. I will repair its broken walls and restore its ruins. I will rebuild it as it used to be. Beautiful, self-explanatory, but you get the idea. You're going to repair us. We're being repaired right now. Hence this truth, right? We've been restored in the spirit of the Lord, in the spirit of the Lord, the Comforter, and the breath also has been breathed unto us, so we're alive once again. Ezekiel 37, Wisdom of Solomon 5, right? Restored once again. Revelation 11 and 11. We've been restored, or on the way to being fully restored. The breath of life, the Spirit, right? Giving this word, this truth, right? You know, like I say, some brief history on Geronimo, and he was let's just read it again, in way of reminder. God is a troop, Genesis chapters 49 and 19. God is a troop, shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last, right? So yeah, we just got into a little bit of this history. Geronimo, who was Geronimo, right? So that's a so-called a famous Apache Indian, all right? And his last famous words, we know how he went. He went out cowardly, right? When you get into the history in some of the books that they don't want us to be reading, right? They obviously don't want to reveal how he was deleted. But you know, his final word was, I should have never surrendered. I should have fought until I was the last man standing. There you have it. Never trust thine enemy. And we read that. Sirach 12 and 10. So we got one more precept and we won't end with that. Right? There you have it, the idea. And yeah, we got the idea. He learned his lesson, right? But he was a staunch warrior. There you have it. Because he was overcome, but he's going to overcome at the last. Right? And he's going to be sitting at the table. Lord willing, I get to meet him. Geronimo, right? Reubenite, right? As far as what the brothers have been saying, is a Reubenite, you know, perhaps Reuben or Gad. And we've got some Gad among us, some Gad and Reuben among us. But as we know, Reuben were the ones that really fought to the very last. They very, very suspicious of when you get into the history. There was more suspicious of and more you might say more you know. Let me just read what he said. Right? He achieved a reputation as a spiritual leader, a tenacious fighter. Looked up the word. Look at the reminder again. Tending to keep a firm hold on something. Right? His tradition. He was a tenacious fighter against those who threatened his people, ways of life. So he was willing to go out, as they say, go out guns blazing. And that's Gad and Reuben, right? They're both actually warriors anyway. But yeah, right, there you have an example there. Who was Geronimo? So a little bit of history there, right? Just a brief history. We're going to hit the last one. We're going to end with this one. Isaiah 11 and 13 says, the envy also of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversary of Judah shall be cut off of Ephraim. Right, there you have it, man. Ephraim shall never envy Judah, and Judah shall not vex Ephraim. There you have it, Akim. The breaches right now, as we speak, are being breached or broken, brought back together again, united as a people. Right, there's a bit more if I in Isaiah 11. I want to read a little bit more, to get the full a little bit more of the context. The righteous reign of the branches, it says there, or the branch. One says, and there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and the branch shall grow out of his root. Right, and we know who they're talking about. What it's saying there, it's talking about out of the root of Jesse was David in the flesh, right? In the flesh, the son of Jesse was David, and in the spirit, you're gonna come out through the tribe of Judah, Yehoshua, right? So it goes into the breaches being brought back together again, and the house of David being risen, right? In the spirit of the Lord, right? Reading on. And the spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, and the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Lord. Right, there you have it. Right, King David, and through King David, through the line of Judah, right, that grand finale, Yehoshua, you Christians call him Jesus in the spirit. And shall make him of quick understanding in the fear of the Lord, and he shall not judge after the sight of his eyes, neither reprove after the hearing of his ears. But with righteousness shall he judge the poor, and reprove with equity for the meek of the earth, and he shall smite the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips shall he slay the wicked. Right, the rod or the staff shall not depart from Judah. Right, hence they both reigned, both kings. King David his reign, and Solomon reigned. You know, these are the root of Jesse, or the tribe of Judah, reigned in righteousness. Solomon reigned for 40 years, and it was a righteous reign. And when he returns, if you can receive it, he's going to return as Yehoshua, and that's going to be the grand finale. And his rule this time going to be everlasting, pursuant to Daniel chapters 2 and 44. There you have it. So it's a restoration, right? The remnant, let's read it, makes the point here. So there you have it, man. The point really is made. I'm just going to finish with Isaiah 11 and 13. It says, the envy also of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversary of Judah shall be cut off. Ephraim shall never envy Judah, and Judah shall not vex Ephraim. Right? So the breaches, we've been brought back together again. Hence all of the other tribes too, in the spirit as we speak. So yeah, I just wanted to get into a brief history of Geronimo, and yes, he will overcome. Right? Once again, as a matter of fact, there's some beautiful meat there. I might have to come back and touch it again. You know, I might have to touch it back when I'm getting to this Isaiah 11 and 13. What did it say? I'm just curious. NLT or the NKJV says, also the envy of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversary of Judah shall be cut off. Ephraim shall never envy Judah, and Judah shall not harass Ephraim. Then at the last, the jealousy between, this is the NLT, Israel and Judah will end. They will not be rivals anymore. You can't make this up. It's beautiful. Right? No more rivalry among the tribes. Total unity. And that's going to be totally, and it's happening now as we speak. Right? The breach is being mended, and we're coming together as a people, and it's ultimately we're going to be together once and for all, man. Like I say, Yehoshua is going to return with the healing in his wings. We're going to have the spirit among us all of the time, 24/7, and the flesh, the heart of flesh, right? Which means we're going to be able to keep the laws. That's the new covenant in the kingdom. We're going to be able to keep the laws 100% with that new heart of flesh. Kala Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. So at the last we're gonna overcome. That's really the point. We was overcome, Gad, right? Hence they call them native Indians. He was overcome, but he gonna overcome at the last. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Kala Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Duwada Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai for putting the spirit on me once again to do a video. Until the next one, we out.